The hoodie's in the closet. The sport jacket's on. It must be time for the Fave 41. Welcome to the annual Fave 41. These are my 41 favorite movies of the year 2017. Going to do 4 videos leading up to the Oscars on Sunday, each with about 10 of the list. Of course, it has to be about 10 because there's 41, not 40, so we'll do 11 on this first one. We'll count them down from number 41 all the way to number 1 over the rest of this week. Again, these are my favorites. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, and they have been leapfrogging each other over the last few weeks. It's been an interesting year in movies. Here we go. Let's start with number 41. Right off the bat, I have to say, this has been a great year in movies. I feel like overall there are more really good movies this year than in others. For instance, last year I think my 41st movie was San Andreas. This year, it's Battle of the Sexes. This is a really great film. Steve Carell doing great work here. He continues to prove that he's more than just the guy from The Office. Emma Stone, who we know is more than just the guy from The Office. Actually, she's not the guy from The Office. Is here doing great work as well. It's about an interesting story that really took place. The importance of the idea of a woman battling a man in tennis, what that meant to culture at that time. Really interesting stuff. Very fun, very meaningful. It's a good movie. In at number 40, Atomic Blonde. Charlize Theron playing, many people would say John Wick. I say James Bond. This is a spy thriller to me, set in the beautiful, nostalgic 80s. It's a really fun, colorful, beautiful movie. Beyond that, the way it lets Charlize just be a spy and not a female spy is one of my favorite things of the year. I've been genuinely surprised that it's not getting more attention, not necessarily for awards, but even some of my favorite movie-loving friends haven't gotten around to seeing Atomic Blonde yet, and I don't know why. See it. It's wonderful. Moving on to number 39, and I think you're going to see a lot of under-the-radar films here in these first little bit, and this one is certainly no different. Last Flag Flying. I don't hear anybody talking about this movie, but it's beautiful, it's poignant, it's powerful. It once again is Steve Carell. I think we're in the Steve Carell portion of the Fave 41. He's doing great work here as somebody who has lost his son in the military and kind of the ramifications of meeting with his old military buddies and going through that mourning process with them. The cast is really good together. You've also got Bryan Cranston, who always does amazing work. He's wonderful here. Lawrence Fishburne doing incredible work here as well. I love this movie. It is one of those that is harsh. The reality of it is very harsh, but it's certainly one that sticks with you, and I think it's worthy to be on my favorite 41. Coming in at number 38, it is the pseudo-documentary, Jim and Andy. I loved watching the behind-the-scenes footage of this unhinged performance of Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman for the movie Man on the Moon. There have been reports of this for a long time, right? There were even news articles at the time about things that happened around the shooting of this movie where Jim Carrey had gone full method actor and was absolutely being Andy Kaufman every second of his day during filming this. To see that confirmed in these shots, to see Academy Award-winning director Milos Forman having to deal with a grown man pretending to be another grown man and making him call him, Andy and those things was just heartbreaking and beautiful and weird and funny all at the same time. I think Jim Carrey is the very definition of a genius, and a genius in the way that many other geniuses have kind of gone a little bit crazy, and that's part of the beauty of how the mind works and expands to do those kind of things. So to see it all on display in Jim and Andy was really interesting, and I enjoyed it all the way through. So let's move on to number 37, and for this one we're going to go with Brigsby Bear. I love Kyle Mooney. He's actually one of my favorite cast members in the current SNL core group that's going on right now. I love his comic sensibility. It's very unique. Every once in a while, there are these comic actors who come around. It's like nobody else is like them. Adam Sandler reminds me of that in some ways. No matter what you think of his career, he had a unique voice, and I think Kyle Mooney is the same way. And this movie is about having a unique voice. It's about creativity and what it means to get something out there that means something, even if maybe it's not the most technically proficient. A lot of the same themes, and I've mentioned this, as The Disaster Artist has, but this is a much better movie, in my opinion. Actually, Disaster Artist will not be in my Fave 41. I didn't like it as much as a lot of people did. But this one is, because it's meaningful, it's beautiful, it's quirky, and it's interesting. Definitely check out Bbear. Moving on to number 36. Yeah, we're going with The Man Who Invented Christmas. Not going to see this one on a lot of people's lists, but this is a really well done film. First of all, Dan Stevens is doing great work these days. I love everything I see him in, and he's perfect here playing Dickens and kind of going into what made the Christmas story become the thing that it became. Here's the thing about this story that blew my mind, and I think the reason that this movie even sticks out a little bit more to me. Christmas wasn't even a highly celebrated holiday until this story was written. After this story, it kind of snowballed, excuse the pun, to becoming more of a celebrated holiday. Thanksgiving was the big holiday. New Year's was the big holiday. Who celebrates Christmas? That kind of blew my mind. And to think that the title is not some sort of an exaggeration, but that Charles Dickens actually did kind of invent Christmas is an amazing thing, and I love the movie. Coming in at number 35, yeah, I'm going with Your Name. Let's talk a little anime, shall we? This is a beautiful story. Now, I don't want to give a lot away. There's some twists and turns here in this story that I think, if you allow the story to tell them to you, become very effective. In fact, there's one moment in this movie. It's one of the most powerful moments I saw this year. There's a meeting between the two of these characters, this young man and this young woman, that was as powerful a meeting as I saw this year. And the reason for that has to do with what we find out about them. Highly encourage you to watch this. I know I haven't given you a lot of plot details or those kind of things because I think it's a great experience to have. It's beautiful, it's well drawn, it's gorgeous, and it's a good watch overall. And in at number 34, A Ghost Story. It won't be the last metaphorical movie on this list, but this is one of those that's gonna feel a little arty to you. Gonna feel a little bit pretentious maybe if you're not in the right zone for it. I loved what this movie had to say about the permanence of relationship beyond life and death. I love how it stuck to its rules and it stuck to its vision of the quote-unquote afterlife. I love the audacity of actually having the ghost in Ghost Story, which is right on the poster, so I don't think it's a spoiler, be a ghost in a cloth like you would see from like a Charlie Brown Halloween special or something, that you can pull that off and still make a serious movie like this. To hide Casey Affleck's performance under a sheet for almost the entire movie is kind of mind-blowing that an actor would do that. There's so much I love about this movie. There's a scene where a guy explaining his philosophy on the comings and goings of life and Earth right in the middle of the movie that's as mind-blowing of dialogue as I've seen this year. This is one that's going to be a little divisive, but it's one that I loved and I'd recommend checking out, A Ghost Story. On number 33. I'm not sure if I call Ghost Story 34 or 35. Anyways, 33 is stronger. Jake Gyllenhaal, has he given a bad performance lately? Even in the movie Life, it was like, they just didn't give him a lot to do. Still a fine performance. What a great actor. This is about the Boston bombing and the story of this couple going through that event and what it did to him and his recovery. It's very gritty and raw and real to their emotions of this very, very Boston family. It is very much about the triumph of what it means to keep going, keep trying, getting stronger. I don't know why this one didn't get as much of attention as it did, but maybe it's just because I'm a sucker for a true story. But this is a good one to watch and a good one to understand. Ah, yes, in at number 32, the one on my favorites of the year that I think I'm going to catch a lot of flack for, Kong Skull Island. what can I say? I had a great time with this movie. I've watched it 3 or 4 times since the first time I watched it. Every time, it's a blast to watch. I think it's just a movie that I allow myself to give myself to and to take me where it takes me. And some of the great creature work that's going on here with that giant King Kong. Some of the fun stuff that turns kind of the things you would usually expect in a movie like this on their head. Moments that shock you, surprise you. All of those are interesting. Yeah, Brie Larson's not given a lot to do. Yeah, there's certainly some over-the-top problems, but I can't help myself. I love this movie, and if you're making a favorites list for me, this is exactly the right place for Kong Skull Island. All right, finishing up this first video as we head towards the Oscars and I get my Fave 41 out there. Number 31 is The Shape of Water. Yeah, kind of low, right? Most people have it much higher. Looks like it might / probably will win the Oscar for Best Picture. It doesn't mean I don't like it. I really like it. There are just 30 movies I like a little bit more. It's very creative, very beautiful, very unique. Guillermo del Toro is such an interesting director. I love what he's saying here through symbolism about her being mute and the sea creature being out of water, a literal fish out of water, so to speak. The idea of relationships being how we're connected together, the things that tie us together, and also the things that make us so different, and how that's beautiful about humanity and beautiful about relationships. Love all that stuff. Plus the performances are great, and it's an interesting story. Shape of Water, though not my favorite movie of the year, like it is many others, is still a really great watch. Well, there you go. There's the first 11 on our journey to the Fave 41. I will be back tomorrow with the next 10. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know maybe guesses you have about what's coming next, thoughts you have on the list in general. I'd love to hear all that stuff. As always, hit me up on Twitter, Aaron Dicer, AARONDICER. Hit up the podcast. It's SiftPop, SiftPop. Search for it in whatever podcast player you use. And subscribe on YouTube. Please give a sub right here on YouTube. And thank you to those who are supporting it. Patreon, patreon.com/yourmoviefriend. All right, I will catch you back tomorrow with numbers 30 through, 30 through 21. We'll do that tomorrow.